accountable, you also have to think about this important question. Do those people know you well enough? And in no way, shape, or form is this a tough reality question that talk to your significant others or anything like that, but it's really one of those self-awareness pieces. When you're sitting down with that person that is supposed to be holding you accountable, do they understand when you are overly stressed? Do they understand that maybe your goals may not be realistic to yourself and that you may be overtasked in that regard? Because when it comes to actually having someone hold you accountable, they have to know you very well to understand that, hey, maybe this is too much for you. Maybe you need to modify your goalposts. Maybe you need to modify the progression that you're going to get in reaching this goal. Because if you don't, then animosity can persist. Then there can be extra levels of stress. And mind you, for some individuals, the people that are actually holding them accountable are their wives, their children, their girlfriends, their boyfriends, what have you. And if you're not careful about that, then that can often cause a very big divide between you and that person, because now there's frustration built in because they're telling you, hey, you're probably putting too much on your plate right now. And this is a self-awareness piece that comes from within us, and then it also comes with those people as well. You really have to make sure you set those ground rules and those guidelines for yourself and for that person, whether it's to be receptive to what they're saying and actually doing it, or it's being accepting to the fact that maybe there needs to be a modification to your plan. And I think that's something that you have to think about very much so, just as much as having someone that is going to hold you accountable. That ferocity and how they're holding you accountable is definitely a bigger piece in that as well. What about you, Sandoval?
So it's really just to reiterate what was already said during the last video, but it's making sure that you communicated effectively in a way that lets them know what type of feedback you would like, how they are supposed to hold you accountable, because as you said, it can lead to animosity, it can lead to hurt feelings from members who may not progress as quickly as the person who is holding them accountable. I know if I were to tell my spouse, hey, this is my goal, this is my aspiration, I want to hit it by the time I hit 6 months, and to her, she may say, well, that's something you can do in a month. And every day you need to be taking steps to get there. However, for me, I said it's going to be 6 months because I know myself it's going to take me 6 months to get there. I took one step today. I may not take another step for another week. But just letting them know that, hey, this is the reason why your goal is 6 months out, a month out, whatever it may be, just so that it doesn't come across in a way that would lead to animosity or a way that you may perceive as nagging because you weren't effective in communicating. This is how you do it, and this is why those goals are set in the way they are.
You guys talking about holding other people accountable for those?
And self-awareness pieces regards is having someone hold you accountable, but also both of you being aware of what is too much. When do I need to listen to this person? Maybe I need to readjust my goals. So that trust in the other individual as well, to be receptive to their feedback, to be like, maybe you're taking too much on your plate right now, maybe you should readjust this goal.
Right.
Just as much as you letting that person know, you're reinforcing my goals a little bit too harshly on me to where it's making me not want to accomplish these goals anymore. That piece of just communication between you and the person that is holding you accountable.
Yeah. That ties into what we were saying earlier. If I'm not checking in on you and you don't know that I'm coming from a good place, then you try to give me some feedback on my goal, it might not come off the right way because you haven't proven to me that you really care. Like you said, with trust.
Exactly, and a good example I would use is Sergeant Lennon talks about doing his TEDx, and 100% our office has backed him up since day one, since he's talked about it. We're very vocal in the fact that we care and we want to influence him and make sure that he's staying on track. But we've also worked with each other for almost a year now, to where I know walking into Sergeant Lennon's office every single day and be like, hey, where you at with this? Hey, where you at with this? Hey, where you at with this? Sergeant Lennon's personality type isn't like that. He's very in the flow. He's got to have a very positive vibe to work on his craft and what he's doing. So to go in there every single day and be like, Sergeant Lennon, where are you at with that personal thing you're trying to get done? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? Is not going to be effective. And it's through knowing him the time that I've worked with him that I understand that, and I know that I don't need to do that because Sergeant Lennon's going to get it done. Now, if I see that it's getting closer to that time where he's supposed to be performing his TEDx and we haven't seen anything, then of course I'm gonna walk in his office or I'm gonna hit him up on WhatsApp because right now we're in quarantine mode. We're not really seeing each other too much these days. And I'll be like, hey, you haven't posted anything? Any new transitions that you've been doing for your video modifications? You haven't been throwing anything in the group chat like you've normally been doing. Like, what's going on with this? And then that way that conversation can happen to where it's not, I don't cause Sergeant Lennon to be defensive, but at the same time I still show that I am trying to make sure he's hitting his milestones where they need to hit.
So a question I want you guys to think about while we still discuss our different tactics for holding people accountable are what are some of the things you're doing to stay productive, whether it be personally or professionally while you're quarantined at home? What are you doing to keep those goals rolling that you set for 2020 or maybe that you set for 2021 but you want to get the ball rolling now? I see Sergeant Leader already posed the question right there. Cool. One thing I wanted to say is, for me, I learned that time management is like something I'm constantly trying to master. So during this time frame, I made a list of all my goals and all my small little goals too, from walking the dog to getting my degree. What time I plan on walking the dog every day, so that way, all right, cool. I know at these times I can work into this spot, and when I want to take a break, I'm doing something productive during the break. So if I'm working on, say, like a video that I really want to work on, and I need to take a break, I know by 8:30 I need to walk the dog. So I'll work all the way up to 8:30. My break when I'm walking outside, walking the dog, I'm not thinking about the video or anything. I'm just taking that break, but I'm also still doing something productive. So we definitely got to make a list of things that are important and things that are of your goals. You need to prioritize them. That's probably my worst thing because for me, I like squirrel with it. I'll start a little bit here, then jump over here, then like, oh, this is due, this is due, this is due. But you need to prioritize based off of due dates and the importance level. What do you guys do?
I've been talking for a minute. Sorry, so what you got?
One more time, your question come again.
I was just saying, what are some of the things you do or that you've done to stay productive, whether it be personal or professional? For me, I made pretty much like what you call a honey-do list.
The honey-do list.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it comes down to. Is just creating a list, daily list, really is what it is, and that'll be done the night before to say, hey, tomorrow this is what's on my agenda. Granted, I'm not walking the dog, but I'm making sure that all my kids are doing their online learning. I have 3 in school right now, so it's just a matter of making sure that they're all hitting their points, and that's really how my morning begins. Make sure that the kids are doing what they need to be doing. But like I said, it all comes down to prioritizing a list the night before. A lot of the key aspects that you've already hit, Sergeant Lennon, just to make sure that I'm staying on track with everything that needs to be done. And that's just the way that I function. That's a personal thing for me. I know that I don't project more than maybe 2 days out because life is very fluid and things are going to come up, and I don't want to feel discouraged if I don't hit something that was on my agenda to do because of coronavirus or a kid got sick or something along those lines. So for me personally, it's 1 or 2 days out. Here's my agenda. This is what I'm doing. This is what needs to get done. And then just checking them off as we go. Checking them off. So a lot of the key aspects you already hit. But what do you have, sir? Vegas?
So I'm a nerd, and I do a lot of research on a lot of time management. For my staff, they're laughing at me because they're not surprised that I said that out loud. If you're not familiar with it, I would do some research and Google it. So the Pomodoro technique is something that was used a while back, and it's still known to this day. There are apps for it as well. It's essentially time-based time management, which sounds kind of redundant, but I'll elaborate a little bit more on it. So essentially what the Pomodoro technique is that for every 25 minutes, you give yourself 5 minutes of break. But in those 25 minutes, you are 100% devoted into the task that you're trying to do. Whether it's you need to do telework for 25 minutes, or maybe you want to clean for 25 minutes. And then you give yourself a 5-minute break, and that's one round. So with the Pomodoro technique, you utilize this 4 times, and then on the 4th time, you give yourself an extended break, 15 to 20 minutes. You should never really go past a certain amount of Pomodoros as far as those rounds go. Generally about maybe 1 or 2, possibly 3 to 4 if you're really trying to be productive throughout the day. But the whole instance is to give 100% of your brain power and energy, because as human beings, we're often told that we have the ability to multitask. Now, granted, we perceive that we have the ability to multitask, but the idea is you're just doing something that you don't have to think about. It's more muscle memory while you're devoting yourself to something you're putting more brain power to. So the Pomodoro technique is definitely something that you can utilize when you're trying to manage your time and get tasks done. Because what you'll often see is we try to basically do 4 things at once. Well, the human brain doesn't work in this regard. The human brain is very simplistic in that you can only focus on doing one thing specifically and give as much percentage of power to that as possible. So if you're trying to get 4 things done and you're doing 5 minutes here, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes here, well, going back to those individual tasks takes more time to remember what you were doing in the first place to getting back and the ball rolling again. So now you're wasting additional time. And that's why the Pomodoro technique is often lauded by a lot of people, because you spend 100% of your time for that 25 minutes, you take your 5-minute break, you walk around, you stretch your legs, you go pet your dog, go wipe something down, whatever it is you're doing in your life, and you come back to it. So that is definitely a technique that I've seen that I've utilized, especially now, because I have very squirrel tendencies. I'll get off track in a moment's notice, and 5 minutes will turn into 3 hours of me just sitting on the couch and doing something that had nothing to do with my prioritized list.
I think that's pretty awesome. I didn't even know that was a thing. I learned that technique from one of my friends. He's in the Army band, and that's actually how they do. They're like, all right, cool, we have 25 minutes to nail as much of the song as we can, and then as soon as 25 minutes is done, it's like, all right, cool, let's see how far we've come. Let's take a break, and let's jump back in, but we're not doing what we just did.
Yeah.
We're going to move on from there. I didn't know that was a whole technique. I thought it was something that's the Army band taught us. But
There are a lot of timers that look like tomatoes, and it's set exactly for 25 minutes, and you just start it up. And then there was an app back in the day that was on Google Play, if I'm not mistaken. I know the Apple Store might still have it, but there are plenty of those timers out there, and it's not even something that you need to pay money for. Just 25-minute timer, the timer goes off, you give yourself 5 minutes to do whatever, and then you go back in it. But the biggest thing is devoting that much mental energy is very stressful on the mind, so you have to make sure that if you're going to utilize it, don't utilize it too much. No more than 4 rounds, give yourself that 15 to 20 minute break, and then determine if you have another task that needs to be done that needs to get utilization through that technique. So that's something.
So we have a comment from Sergeant Burton. He said, I created a wall of sticky notes of all the things I want to get done, categorized them into priorities, and scheduled the time planner for when I will work on each one. I think that's really awesome. That goes into what you were saying, sir, about the visual. Definitely being able to see what your goals are, and then I guess I'm assuming, sir, you have a little bit of self-satisfaction of being able to tear down those sticky notes. This is the same as the satisfaction of being able to put a check mark on your planner or cross it out. Something about doing that makes you feel good. At least you can go to sleep that day feeling like you did some type of something productive. I like it.
And I would even say, just in that aspect of life, when you're trying to be productive and you're trying to utilize any type of management of yourself, personally and professionally speaking, give yourself rewards. Like some of us have sweet tooths. So I've 100% done this before. It works. I have literally a bar of chocolate, and if I get 30 minutes of solid work done, I reward myself with that, because now your body's getting into the muscle memory of knowing that you will reward it for doing things, and it will cause you to get, from a psychological perspective, it'll get your mind into focus and be like, all right, cool, 30 minutes and I get that piece of chocolate that I really want. Or for us, other people that have other things that we enjoy in life, video games.
Yes!
So a lot of video games are coming out right now. Everybody will not be quiet about Animal Crossing. Don't ask me for the code because I don't own it. But Animal Crossing and like all these other games that my Call of Duty folks and what have you. But reward yourself and give yourself that purpose in that regard. So for however much work you do, that determines how much time you get to devote to playing games after the fact. And it's the same thing. Our bodies want to maintain homeostasis. They want to just live. Our brain doesn't want to do more than what it necessarily needs to do. Our brain functions to survive. So when you're forcing it to do things that you don't want, you should be rewarding yourself for those things, because now you're conditioning yourself to knowing, if I do this stuff, I will be rewarded by this, that, and the other. And this is really where the person that's holding you accountable comes into play, because if you're rewarding yourself too much for doing 15 minutes of work and 3 hours of video games, probably not the best ratio in the world. So you definitely have to make sure that you're prioritizing that too, and getting with those people that hold you accountable. Like, hey, you know how much I love playing video games. What do you think is an adequate amount of time that I can reward myself for this? And that's often effective. You see it a lot with when we raise children. I have a goddaughter. I love her to death. But at the same time, I often rewarded her with just simple things for getting tasks done, like picking up her clothes, picking up her toys, and things like that. And as an adult, I still find that works for me, because whenever I get an accomplished task done, I'm like, all right, cool. Now I can watch that new episode of whatever on Netflix for 35, 45 minutes.
I like it. You just gotta make sure the reward also is, like you said, like not too much of that reward. For me, like cheat days usually turn into like cheat weeks. So a way to counter that is when I was playing Call of Duty the other day, no matter how many times I died, I would have to have a tally mark, and then based on how many times I died in that game, I would do push-ups. And then once my arms got tired, I changed it to sit-ups. But when I was at my buddy's house, I lost a lot, so I changed it from push-ups to sit-ups. That way, it's like, all right, cool. It's not really a punishment, but at least it's helping me towards a separate goal. That's one way you can try to do things too. And instead of always giving yourself maybe sweets or time or something like that. All right, cool. Like, because this happens, I'm going to work out a little bit more. I think you do that similar.
Yeah.
So Sergeant Menegas does something similar in class. Based off his vocal pauses, he'll keep a tally mark, and based off of those, it's how many miles.
Every quarter mile for your tally mark.
Yeah. So, sheesh, I just wouldn't talk. So there's different ways to kind of challenge yourself, because, like you said, it's really easy to become complacent at this time. So you want to practice these time management skills that you got going on.
For sure. I utilize a lot of the same concepts, whether it's rewarding or punishing myself. But really, I think, like you said, it's really just a matter of holding yourself accountable, having someone else to hold you accountable, just so we don't get too far off topic, and finding a good balance between what it is that needs to get done and what it is you want to get done when it comes to the video games and it comes to personal development, professional development, making sure that there's a good balance, just to not wear yourself out, because who's to say how long we're going to be on this quarantine? If we transit, or if we end up being here a lot longer than we anticipated, you can find yourself just mentally wearing yourself out. So just make sure that you find a good balance, you communicate effectively with the individuals that are holding you accountable, and you hold yourself accountable. It takes, you have the saying, it takes 30 days to develop a habit. Once that habit's developed, it's no longer a chore. So just make sure that this is the perfect time to get all that stuff done, whether it's working out, whether it's professional development, whether it's personal development, whether it's learning a new instrument, going to classes, or working out. Like I said, just make sure that you start the steps now, so that when we are no longer on quarantine, they've already developed to a point where it's now second nature to us.
I like Sergeant Stalin said, COVID has changed a lot of my goals and priorities. Right now, I'm really focused on making sure my son doesn't lose progress physically for soccer. I am laser focused on finding ways and means to deliver professional development to folks now that there is no in-person instruction. I haven't deployed any specific tactics, but I think my mindset is very positive, and I see the opportunity we have due to the pandemic. For my son, do a lot of physical activity, lift weights, coordination drills, trampoline, just keep it moving now that there are no organized sports. Personally, I'm going through a free course from Yale called The Science of Well-Being. It's a free course and really good for everyone's current situation. I like that. So Sergeant Stalin's pretty much looked at this COVID, a roadblock, as you can say, as more of just a hurdle. It's an opportunity for us to become adaptable. Right? He's still keeping his son moving. he's keeping his brain turning, but I don't know, he's taking a course from Yale. That's pretty nice, and it's free. Why not? And I like that a lot of organizations and companies are reducing their prices and coming out with a lot of free things for people too. But I mean, it's really good. So you said the science of well-being. What's some of the things you're learning in that course, sir? If you wouldn't mind writing that in here for us. How much time do we have left, Sergeant Polito? Does it let you know? I feel like we're about to get into a really good convo.
We got extended from 40 minutes. So I don't know how much extra time we have, but we have more than 40 minutes.
Okay, cool. I like it. So everybody, please keep populating what's some of the things you're doing to stay productive, personally or professionally, during this time frame. It's really tough, it's really scary, and it's really weird. I don't think in my lifetime I've ever seen anything like this. It's stuff you only see in the movies. People are going nuts back at home. People are going nuts in home. It's because they don't know what to do. So please share that information. We're recording this, so this video will be available for people who aren't able to tune in today. And this may be some of your personal experience might be able to help somebody else out. We've dropped a lot of knowledge here just between us three, and then with some of your input, we could really help out a lot of people.
And while that's, I know Sergeant Stolen is probably typing up some good resources and stuff, but talking about resources here at Ramstein, for example, so a lot of people are very taken back by the idea of having to spend money, which who wouldn't be at this point in age? Like, taxes are due, taxes are extended right now, so people don't have their tax money. People may have had flights that had been canceled for vacations they were going to take. Maybe they have issues at home with family where they're having to send money back. Maybe we're just trying to make sure that our finances are good, so once we get out of this, potentially there could be some avenues for traveling and all those things. So what I would recommend is, obviously Audible does a 30-day free subscription. Obviously you have to throw in your account information, so be wary of that. If you're going to do things like that, make sure that you're looking at those 30-day subscriptions and knowing that I have to cancel this in 30 days. I've made a mistake before where I've gotten something for free and then I end up paying for the next month because I forgot about that 30-day mark. But one resource that is available to you, to everybody in Ramstein, for example, is usafelylibraries.org. So the libraries were still open. I haven't been on the FSS page to know the status of them. To my knowledge, they still are. I spoke with those individuals and kind of got a debrief on a lot of what they do. And first off, you can fill an application out for a library card number online through usafelylibraries.org. If you want more information on this, please let me know. But kind of just to give a sight picture of what it is that there's over 20 different websites on usafelylibraries.org that you as a member of the Ramstein Library can utilize. Everything from EBSCO books for cultural history, actual normal history as far as any type of historical reference from the Revolutionary War on. There are ancestry websites where you can go and look at biographies and profiles of individuals that served in the military services. There are books on language, and there are also other memberships that you can get there that have audiobooks, ebooks, anything and everything that you can think of. And for my folks that are on this chat with us that have children, there are actual websites that are affiliated through usafelylibraries.org that actually give you free access to learning materials for your children as well if you want to shake it up from the normal stuff that you're actually teaching your folks right now. So the resources are there in that regard. And it's definitely free. Read the instructions. The application process is super easy when you go on the website. You just hit the apply button, fill out your personal information. It takes them anywhere from 24 hours to 72 hours to actually get that approved. The library staff is more than willing to help you all as well. So if you wanted to give them a call, you 100% can. If y'all want that info, I can drop it to you. Just leave your information in the chat as well. But there's so much out there. And speaking on what Sergeant Stolings was referring to about free organizations giving free educational material. If you go on YouTube, for example, too, there are a lot of people that are making PE videos for people that are stuck at home, that are having to homeschool, that can help their children, like have little workouts here and there and mix it up. Because I myself, I do not know how to make workouts. I rely heavily on the rest of society to help me with that in that regard.
Sergeant Stallings also said Overdrive Media is free. It's an app to download audiobooks through USafety Libraries.
Yes.
And he posted, or Soren Morris posted a link for Audible. It says for ages 0 through 18. And then I am posting my top TED Talks for you guys. Hopefully then, yeah, it's all jumbled up, but so there's one by Tim Ferriss and another by B.J. Miller. Paige is Madam, he's a poet that I follow. He did a TED Talk. And then Stacey Flowers, hers is actually my favorite. The 5 people you need to be happy. So it talks about, I feel like everything educational now is like all in 5s, 5 voices, 5 love languages, 5 dysfunctions of the team. But the 5 people you need to be happy, and I kind of referenced this before when we talked about our goals. You definitely need a peer, you need a friend, you need a coach, and you need a cheerleader. And the last one is slipping my mind right now. But right now we're definitely friends, but we're also peers because we're in the same kind of, our goals are kind of similar professionally. We have similar, so we can actually bounce off of each other. But my friends who aren't in the Air Force or aren't PME instructors, they're not my peers because they won't truly understand how to hold me accountable to those goals, but they will be able to. Your coach is that person that is not really high-fiving you at every single milestone. They're just still pushing you and checking up on you over and over again. And your cheerleader is somebody who's like your grandma, who you can have the ugliest picture in the world, but she's still going to say that's her baby. That cheerleader, that person is always going to keep you going and let you know they're going to be the one high-fiving you at every milestone. So you need all of those people. I'm really upset that I can't remember the 5th person right now. But check out these TED Talks. They're all really, really good. And you can also download the TED app, make an account, and based off of your interest, they'll send you notifications for popular TED Talks that fall underneath those categories that you selected. That way you're not just getting notified about any and every TED Talk that pops up. You can find some that actually add value to you. And not all of them are 18-minute long speeches. Some of them are kind of funny. Some of them are animated. TED has a whole range of different ways to attack education. So you should check those out. What are some of the things you have, sir? Your repertoire?
My repertoire of
Personal professional development.
personal professional development. I really don't have one. I really don't. Really, it's just a matter of getting back into school. Was my biggest thing was for the professional development. It's great being an instructor. However, to maintain this residency here at the schoolhouse, I needed my degree, and that's kind of where all of my attention has been flowing. So it's really just a matter of getting with the education center. They are limiting like in-house hours and things like that. They're pushing out a lot of notifications like that. So just getting online and making sure that I'm good to go there is kind of where I've been leaning.
And that's a very valid point though too, because, and for the audience as well, you can answer this question in the chat, and this could definitely be a sidebar conversation for anyone that wants some resources or help with it. But how many people are actually, like, first off, how many people are in education right now? And secondly, how many of you all have thought about your current educational goals and started to realize that now that I've had some time to sit down and think about this, maybe this isn't the educational goal I really want to achieve? This time is a really great place for that actual self-awareness piece. Understanding what you're really trying to pursue, because I first started my degree with a Bachelor's of Science in Criminal Justice. And as time went on, I had a lot of time when I was deployed to actually think about it. And upon reflecting, I realized that I really had no aspiration of using that degree once I got out of the military. A lot of us get in this mode to just do things just because without really thinking about it, because TA's there, you should use it. And that's often what I was told as an airman and then as a young NCO when I was a staff sergeant back in 2016. And what my misstep was that I didn't take the time to really think about it, and I only had one more chance to change my degree plan, which is very important. So I would definitely recommend that if you're pursuing education in this time, or you're starting to, definitely don't jump into something without fully thinking about it. Talk to the education center and really utilize that resource, because you can only change your degree plan so many times, and then you're kind of cemented in what you're going to be doing. And a lot of people have that misstep early in their careers where they're trying to change it and change it and change it, and that sometimes can come back and haunt us in the future when we have a degree that we may not be 100% on. So I would definitely take that avenue and look at it. Like myself, I ended up changing my degree for the sole fact that I had no aspiration of pursuing a job with a criminal justice degree on the outside. So that's why I changed to Homeland Security, because there are more viable options with me being prior security forces and all those things as far as civilian contractor jobs.
It's really important to figure out what career path you want to go to and find a mentor within that, because that's the other one, mentor. But you need to find a mentor in those career fields that you think you might be interested in. So for me, I thought I wanted to be a physician assistant, so I shadowed one. I shadowed two actually, and then I realized I was like, okay, maybe I don't want to do this in the Air Force, but I'm not really. This job isn't what I thought it would be. Getting somebody who had the experience and then finding out what they actually majored in actually really helps too, because for me, I thought I had to major in a certain thing to be a certain job. So sometimes that is the case, but I know, for example, I know a fighter pilot, he's a theater major. I thought you had to major in some type of major that has something to do with flying.
Avionics?
Yeah, but not at all. Like, you don't have to at all. You just gotta do really good on that AFOPT. Shout out to Sergeant Polito. I like it.
Yeah, so I would stress the mentor position, or the mentor, having a mentor. It's something that I stress a lot to the students that rotate in and out of the schoolhouse, just because those individuals are going to be the ones that you're emulating professionally, personally. There's really no greater compliment that I could receive than somebody saying, you know what, Sarnswell, I enjoy the things that you do. I want to be like you when I grow up, that kind of thing. It kind of gives you the warm fuzzies inside. So make sure that you do find a mentor, just someone that you can emulate to make our Air Force better for the next future, or the next generation that's coming through.
And actually, a question was asked: would you recommend choosing a degree that relates to your Air Force AFSC? So I'll start this one off, and then I can move it along. As far as it goes, we've been talking a lot about what to do in your personal life as far as personal development goes. But there's another aspect in here that we've kind of been glancing over from time to time, because they bleed over into each other, obviously. Your professional development. It's great that we have this time to think about our comprehensive airman fitness. So all of our domains of wellness and getting ourselves to where we need to be refreshed and reinvigorated. So when we get back into the mission sets, for those of us that are at our homes and doing the teleworking piece, we're ready to go. Excuse me. But when it comes to your professional career, what are you doing right now that is helping advance? Because complacency is often a very toxic but sneaky thing that pops up into our lives. Because as we're so concerned about our personal well-being and our personal development, we often shelve our professional goals and those things that shape and matter. You should 100% think about what type of degree you're getting. In the regards of, and this once again is a self-awareness piece, what your plans are. Now's a good time to really think about your Air Force career and what it holds for you. Are you staying in? Are you getting out? And if you aren't, what's your plan A? What's your plan B? What's your plan C? Because when we talk about getting degrees, are you doing it for your personal well-being, your professional well-being, or can those two things coincide and be the gray area? Because I'm getting my degree in Homeland Security, but I also want to stay in the security focal point once I get out of the military. So that helps my professional career and my personal career. But if you have no aspiration to stay in the military, which some of us don't, you serve, you do your time honorably, and you get out and you have your benefits. You have to really think about those pieces as well. So definitely talk to the Education Center. Definitely ask them those questions and have that conversation now, because this is the best time to have it while you have that time to self-reflect. And then on top of that, AFIs, your CDCs, Air Force Handbook 1, these are all things right now that you have the time to read through, and you have the time to absorb that information to professionally develop yourself. So that's also something to keep in mind as well.
Before I go into mine, I just want to say one more thing. So we will be doing this weekly while we're doing the quarantine. So tune in next week. We definitely will have this, and we'll have a panel of different members from Ramstein ALS, and potentially people from different organizations on our panel as well. So keep staying tuned and connected with us when it comes to stuff like this. But to answer this question, would you recommend choosing a degree that relates to your Air Force AFSC? Yes, if you really love your AFSC and you see yourself doing it on the outside. So my primary AFSC, I am an electrician in CE, but I'm not as passionate about being an electrician as I am as an instructor, a public speaker, or in science. I love science, which is kind of funny because most people who are into arts aren't really into science too. But I love science. I love learning about the body and anatomy and everything like that. And a lot of my coworkers know that I thought I was going to be in the medical field when I first joined, but I was in for a rude awakening. But I still aspire to do something in the medical field. I want to be a physical therapist. So I do recommend go ahead and use Air Force School. Use these opportunities you have. Sign up for as many TDYs as you can, get these certs. If you really, really, really want to use your degree, because eventually you're going to take this off, and you're going to have that degree with you still. So if you really care about, you really love your job, and you can see yourself doing it on the outside, you want to further your education in there, then go for it. Have any of you guys used Air Force School?
No, I have not. I've known a couple people who use it before, and it seems pretty awesome that they have, because now that the rules have changed too, where you can use it for other things other than your AFSC specific stuff. A lot of people are using it now, trying to get things that they would utilize once they get out of the Air Force.
Yeah, and then for me specifically, to answer the same question, originally I'm a public health technician by trade, so this whole COVID-19 is right up my alley. It's what I've spent my entire career kind of learning. So it's a lot of preventive medicine. Granted, there are, through Air Force Virtual Education Center, there's the ABC degree that you can go and get that ties directly into your AFSC, and it is broken up into 3 different categories, Category 1 through Category 3, that will outline how many semester hours you would need to complete to get a degree in that that's in line with your AFSC. The Category 1s are a lot shorter, and it takes in a lot of the credits that you hit during technical training. And they apply them directly towards your new degree plan through this ABC program. So if you are looking to get something within your career field, I'd say that that's probably the best way to go. It probably alleviate a lot of the time unnecessary classes that may not be needed.
One more. So I have some comments here. I'm just going to start reading through some of them. Before I do that, I learned in NCOPAS that I just went through not so long ago that with Air Force School, a lot of people are trying to rush and get those certificates before they separate or they retire, which is understandable because a lot of them are like worth a year. However, it looks better when you go to an organization or a company or a business and you have these certifications. Maybe now I've only been in 6 years and I keep working on those certifications. Now I have the experience with that certification on top. So when I get out, it's like, yes, I have this cert that I just renewed maybe, but I've also had this cert, 10 years ago, and I have all this experience on top of using that cert. So also keep that in mind too. Sergeant Stallings is put in here, since all testing has halted right now, you can email him. He put his email in here, david.stallings@usaf.mil. He's got all the juice when it comes to stuff like that. So some of the comments we have in here. From Temez. I was hesitant about taking a class while still in ALS. Glad I talked to my instructor since he advised me towards it. So right now I am taking that class, plus I'm still in my 7-level CDCs, which I might have more than enough time to study for since the testing center is closed. I had a CLEP scheduled, so that should be postponed as well. This kind of worked out. Blessing in disguise. Then we have the questions about the Air Force School program that we dived into, and is this something we can utilize from a distance learning perspective? And like we said, that's something Sergeant Stallings can go ahead and knock out because we haven't used Air Force School, not yet. And then Sergeant Morris commented, edX has online university level courses. Founding partners, Harvard and MIT. they have a plethora of subjects. Go ahead, SAT words. I took a class a little while ago for free, for fun. Non-degree seeking online self-paced classes. I like it. For free, fun, and it doesn't really have to be goal-oriented towards your degree, and self-paced. Really key for me, because self-paced. Yeah, and that's all the comments we have so far. So just like I said, I'm not sure when this Zoom video will shut out because we hit the button asking for an extension. So I just wanted to plug you guys again. Next week at 10 o'clock, we will be doing the exact same thing. We'll have a different topic and we'll have different panel members. We might have some of the same people, depending on who you vote, who you like the best. Just kidding. But we'll have some people up here and we'll just keep talking about progressing and how to cope with COVID, how it's going on. Yeah, coping with COVID, like it.
Disclaimer: this will not cure COVID.
It's not cure COVID in no way, shape, or form.
We got to vote to bring Technical Sergeant Venegas back already.
Silliness. But for everybody that's in the audience as well, something important to think about is this is all driven by anyone that comes in. So if you know anyone that wants to have these conversations, and if you have topics that you specifically want to talk about or things that you want to pick our brains about, you can definitely put those things out there. You can contact any of us. Sergeant Stolings is the person that's definitely heading this piece as far as the coordination part and sending out these note-alls, letting people know that we are having these. So depending on how people show up and how frequent we want this to occur, we can take any type of topics as far as it goes. This isn't set particularly to a particular mindset or state that we're trying to push as far as it goes. Anything that you all may have questions about that we can have a panel for is probably going to have the same questions from other people. So it's definitely something that we're looking into exploring. So if you have ideas about topics that you want to discuss, so we can have these open forums in the way we are, and definitely bring more people into it, by all means, throw those suggestions out there.
For sure, word of mouth is going to be the best avenue to get this forum out there. Get as many people as we can tuned in. Right now, I'm not sure of a limit, but the more people we can reach, the better. Tons of education, like I said, or as Sergeant Venegas said, so push it out there.
Sergeant Stallings got some jokes in here. But Itemes posted about a P90X. Thank you. We were talking about insanity upstairs earlier. So they posted a link to some P90X. It says nutrition guide. It said if you're worried about the gyms being closed. And Sergeant Stallings said we might have to switch to civilian clothes soon if we can't get any haircuts. Hey, I'll give you guys a $5 haircut. It's gonna be a 1 all the way around.
Do we want close?
I need somebody to do that razor fade.
But that's this is pretty much all we got for you guys. This was coping with COVID. How to stay progressive during this time frame. I'm Staff Sergeant Lennon.
Staff Sergeant Zavala.
Technical Sergeant Venegas.
And that's all.
Signing out.
See y'all.
You got it?
6 feet away. 6 feet. But I like it. It was a good time. Dude, you totally.
If you schedule now, we will remove the 40-minute limit on your next group meeting. Schedule now.
Schedule for next week.
Yeah.
No, that was
Y'all
good.
totally got me